Hello everyone, we are in beautiful Barcelona at ITC Dear Europe, the inaugural ITC Dear Europe. I'm very lucky to be joined by Glenn Morgan of Aon, who's going to introduce himself very briefly. But first off, thanks so much for joining me. How are you doing?
Yeah, doing good. Happy to be here. It's great city, great weather. Lots of great companies here, so I'm enjoying myself.
Fantastic. Weather's a little bit too great for me. I'm not the most comfortable I've ever been temperature-wise, but you know, we'll take it over a storm or snow, and
Sure.
especially at this time of year. Glenn, just to frame this conversation that we're going to have, why don't you give yourself or give our watchers, our listeners, a little bit of an introduction?
Sure. So I lead Aon's digital asset practice. I wear a couple of different hats. So I sit inside of our financial service group, which focuses on D&O, E&O, crime, those types of products. But I really work on more of a what we call our DAU, delivering Aon United basis across commercial risk to make sure that we're coordinating the best products and services for all of our companies that are in the digital asset industry, whether that means they're crypto native or crypto adjacent, so we call them, like a traditional company who's layering in blockchain products and services, or even like a commercial enterprise, like looking to get into NFTs or something like that. So that's the side number one. The second side of my job is I'm on the advisory board for our Web3 Growth Accelerator, which is a segment of Aon Growth Ventures, set up to run our innovation at scale playbook, which looks at like how do we make large investments now to build out, whether that's in like talent, resources, product development, or acquisitions for what we can build for opportunities in the future. And so given that the stage of which digital assets Web3 environment is right now, it aligns perfectly with that mission. There's lots of problems to solve, lots of like unmet challenges that we need to rethink the way that we approach risk solutions. And so that's been kind of like Aon's effort to help streamline some of these efforts where an industry that moves so quickly can be hard to keep up with as like a large public company.
So yeah, we've got a good setting here and lots of challenges to solve. We love to hear that. That's what we all do here. Let's kick off. Maybe not a lot to talk about for this first question, but what, in your opinion, what, if any, is the most positive trend or change affecting the industry? There's obviously a lot of disruption right now, but can we find a silver lining amongst all this cloud?
Yeah, I mean, I think that obviously 2023 has been the year of the regulation. Coming off the tails of FTX and everything that happened with that debacle. There's definitely a heightened focus on regulation and investor protection, security. People look at that and say, if we allowed this Wild West industry something to happen, like of this magnitude, we need to tighten it up. And while it's been a very painful year, from my perspective, my job's gotten twice as hard. We have to run around, make sure that we're doing appropriate due diligence, make sure we're getting people who don't work in the industry comfortable with what we're doing with crypto products, services. And I think that, I guess if we're going to turn it into a positive, is that sometimes you have to break things to get them to work the right way. FTX is a big example of that. And so as everybody's reevaluating how they look at crypto, from how their business should get into it, what types of risk controls, regulation is there. Insurance has gotten a much more relevant position, seat at the table. It's a high on the boardroom conversations because people want to work with companies who are quote unquote the adults in the room, people who know that we have to follow certain things from a compliance, regulatory, risk perspective. And so when you have all these outsized risks, while we still have trouble with capacity in the industry, there's a lot more demand from the crypto industry to start filling some of the capacity that's been on the sidelines.
And I mean, it's nice to hear things from your perspective there. But I mean, it's interesting about the trend that I'm particularly seeing in insurtechs right now, and obviously as someone who works one of the largest brokers in the world, but very much with a digital hat on. I'd be interested to get your opinion on this. There's a trend, very common trend at the moment, of insurtechs changing their models from B2C to B2B, and not just from offering SME insurance, but also in terms of genuinely going from digital insurers to solution providers.
Yeah.
What do you think the effect that? What do you think is the effect that will have on the industry, the wider industry?
Well, I mean, I think it's a positive change, right? Like for insurance industry, because like a lot of businesses are the best distribution centers. So like for insurance, we see an example of this in some different products. Think about like personal wallet protection. Like there's coverage available for that today. You can work with certain insurance companies, go to them directly, provide them with a snapshot of what your holdings are, get Web3 wallet, hot wallet protection for yourself. Like up to $500,000, $1 million, something like that. Those products aren't really seeing a lot of uptick right now because and the one side of it is that the assumed risk nature of a lot of the consumers that play in kind of the crypto space, but even for those who might not be as savvy and might not understand how much they would be interested in insuring their assets like from theft or hacks or et cetera, they don't necessarily know about the ways to do that, or they don't know about the products that are out there. So what they want to see is, I know a big topic, this conference and insurtech in general, it's like embedded products. Whether it's an embedded product, like in a checkout theme, or it's a partnership with another business to help with that distribution, to say, hey, we've now partnered with a major exchange or a custodian to be able to provide you insurance at the consumer level. While that company can't technically, legally sell insurance, they can be a distribution partner for the insurer, and that sales cycle, gets a lot more effective.
And you mentioned embedding there. It's pretty much impossible to talk about insurance and technology and not talk about embedded right now. There's loads of people talking about it at this very moment over there on the expo floor. So we're going to join that party.
Okay.
But we're going to use it as a framing point rather than an actual talking point. So, as I say, it's arguably the biggest talking point at the moment. But what do you think is the next big innovation? I feel like I know, given that even your job title, you might have some biases here, but that's fine. But yeah, what's that next big innovation?
Sure. Well, I mean, there's a number of different ways we can take this question, because I feel like there's a lot of big innovations that are happening, the intersection of insurance and crypto right now. But one thing that we're working on at Aon, we're working with a company called Names, is essentially kind of like a DeFi Lloyd's of London model, which enables us to be able to offer on-chain insurance products in a regulated manner through facilities set up in Bermuda. And not only can we offer regulated insurance products, but because of the structure on a segregated cell model, we'll be able to build different platforms that address risk in a new, more effective manner. Unforeseen risks, and that we couldn't go to a traditional insurer for. We can now raise alternative capital from hedge funds, VCs, other insurance companies, whoever wants to buy into our platform or our cells that we stand up on that, can now participate in insuring that risk and have kind of like an alternative opportunity for investment. And so, I think that fits perfectly under the digital asset narrative right now. But I think that honestly, like, it has, as a new structure of providing reinsurance for risk, it has a much broader application than just insurance. And ultimately, I think people will start to see it as like a more effective, effective, efficient way to scale insurance programs and raise money for them. Operating very similar to Lloyd's is today, but it gives a little bit more flexibility in what the coverage can structure and do.
I mean, the phrase you just used there, and raise money, sort of triggered me to think about something else. I mean, a different type of raising money. It's more about raising costs. I mean, no secret, operational costs are rising. I mean, if you're thinking about, even just the larger organizations, so insurers as much as, the larger brokers like an Aon, I mean, how do you think about, how should we be thinking about changing spending priorities?
Yeah, well, I mean, like anything that's like technology, a lot of technology that's developing right now, like names, for example, like, what do underwriters charge like 30% of the policy premium on all of this like operational process to do their underwriting? It's not just opening the submission, it's everything from the time it took to write the policy, to pull the forms together, to handle their back end. Like, that's an expensive process. You can put some of these things on chain to be handled by smart contracts. You're cutting down your OPEX significantly. So those are some of the things I think that I think could be very valuable. As we're looking to continue to scale some of these products, but that doesn't mean that they have to work like outside of traditional verticals. It's just a complementary way to add new capacity.
Something else I have to get your opinion on. Another thing, we mentioned that everyone's talking about embedded. Everyone's also talking about things like ChatGPT and Bard, generative AI. I mean, do we have to be worried about that at all? About us, and what about? I'm not thinking about stealing jobs, but there's other things to worry about, like fraud, for example. So yeah, what concerns do you think that we should be having about that, if any?
I have a lot of thoughts on this. It's funny you say this. I was looking at the list of speakers, all the different panels, and probably 12 to 13 are talking about AI. So it's like definitely the topic du jour right now. But I could relate it, I guess, to kind of what you see with other technology in crypto, for example. Is like usually when a technology is working, or a technology is a powerful tool, you're going to have bad actors use it. Like, for example, with Bitcoin, you have the Silk Road. Somebody was able to set up a decentralized exchange, a place where people could come and buy and sell products and services online without any intermediaries, like direct to, and we know the story of the Silk Road and how that ended. That was a kind of suboptimal outcome for both the people who created it and all the crime that was happening on it. But that's a perfect example of how if people are interested if criminals are interested in doing something poorly, they're going to use the most effective technology they can use to get a job done. So like looking at generative AI, I think it's gonna, I've seen a few articles talking about how generative AI is making scammers, smarter about how they're able to like socially engineer people. But, it also should, in like kind, be getting, understood and utilized by businesses to use the same tools to combat against those scams. So we were talking, at a recent event I spoke at and they kind of paired digital assets with the AI topic. We often get thrown in together. And when you think about like who's going to lose their jobs and might not be able to take a next step with AI, it's the people who resist AI's existence. If you try to suppress or fight its application and as a useful tool, then when the applications develop to a safe manner that are going to be deployed in business, you're going to be the last person at the end of the table who doesn't understand how to use the tools. And so, it's very important for businesses, insurers, to start investing and start using these tools as much as possible. So, the same way that fraudsters can use them to, commit crimes, we can also use them to fight back.
Yeah, so Glenn Morgan said it first. You want to be familiar with the technology to not avoid a corporate OK Boomer situation. That is my words. Those were my words, not Glenn's.
Yeah, he said it. He said it.
Let's not attribute that to you. Final question for you. I mean, what do you want to? We've talked about digital assets, and I'd love to get your opinion on what you want to see more of in relation to insurers, and digital assets. Surely we're missing out on some things already, right?
Yeah, I mean, we're missing out on a lot of things. It's just a matter of, right now we have a mismatch. Insurance products do exist, but there's a mismatch between the capacity insurers are willing to provide and the price that consumers are willing to pay. So it's not that the insurance coverage doesn't exist always, it's that, it's typically at a opportunistic rate that's, insurance companies saying, if you're wanting us to take on this much risk in an area that we're not that comfortable with, then you're gonna have to pay us more money. And that's hard if you're a growth business, right? Like if you're just a startup who, you need to invest as much of your capital back into growth as you can so that you can, you've only got, a 12-month runway. So, paying an opportunistic rate is harmful to your business. So how much is it actually risk transfer versus, an extra expense that, what good is it going to do you if you don't have enough money to run your business anymore? So I think, what I'd like to see is for the education to improve, and that's partially why I'm here, is to help people educate and understand, more about the digital asset industry and how it's a technology that's a value add and not, just creating ways for people to skirt around the rules. And so as we get smarter, more educated, that gap between, opportunistic pricing and what consumers are willing to pay gets smaller and smaller. The understanding of the industry goes up, and then we're able to start offering products like smart contract insurance, for example. And that's like what we're focusing on right now, is like, how do we take something that's completely foreign to financial institutions like insurers and dissect the risks into a manner to where it's digestible, and they can actually go to leadership within their firms and say, this is a good area for growth. If we put capital behind this, then it's going to unlock a new area of business for us, because frankly, when you talk about smart contracts, you look at all the things that are being done and like cool things in blockchain. Smart contracts are at the center of that. Find a way to make them insurable, and you have a very large area of unaddressed business.
Right, well, that is all we have time for. I'm sure anyone either at the conference or elsewhere, you can learn more about this. All of Glenn's talk show that he is presenting on will be available on our website. Do make sure to check it out. It will be very fascinating indeed. I know this for sure because I wrote the program. Glenn, thank you very much for joining me. It's been a pleasure. Make sure to check out the rest of our ITC DA Europe content online wherever you receive it. Thanks very much.